I just started playing an MMO that pretty much no one's heard about and no one's talking about. I've looked at lots of MMOs, I've played so many over the years, but I have not seen this one. And this one actually just released out of early, I think, beta the last like month. This is called Eder Spire, and it comes from a small Argentina team. They're out of Argentina. I think it's about 12 people, and it was a pet project for like a few years from the main guy, and now he's essentially just got his actual team up and building it. So I will be honest, these visual styles were kind of not my thing at first. They've grown on me, so maybe you look at this and think this looks awesome. Maybe you look at it and you're about to vomit. I've sort of learned to think it looks like a kid's version almost of World of Warcraft with a little taste of RuneScape, with a lot more RuneScape in the actual gameplay itself. Now, something you'll notice is that it is WASD with controllers, but you'll see the UI and it looks a little casual. That's because this game was made for mobile originally. It's now on PC. It's about to be Steam Deck verified, and then they're going to put it on Apple TV, which sounds a little crazy to me, but I guess there's a market there. I don't know. Another thing you can't do is you can't jump. I'm spamming the space button. You cannot jump. That feels really weird to me, but whatever. So, what do you do in this game? Well, the game is pretty basic, and that's actually one of its strengths in my opinion. So, coming from old school RuneScape and having so many choices, so many things to do, or maybe something even like World of Warcraft or Elder Scrolls Online, you might be overwhelmed by the choices in those games. This game kind of does away with that. The game is very simple in what you can do, and that's probably because they're early on, they just don't have enough content, but it actually is sort of fun to just start a game, an MMO that's really early in its days. You mostly just kill things and grind and do fetch quests. Now, that may sound really boring to most of you, but I actually have had a good time playing a game sort of in its early stages and talking to people and not feeling overwhelmed by all of those systems. So you kind of see here, you're running around. My guy has a lot of like very shiny looking armor. Shinier the better in this game, literally. If it's shinier, it means your armor's actually of higher quality. You can see at the top left, you see your health. At the top right, there's a couple options, which is your inventory, which we can go over here. You can see inventory, very, very basic. You can look at your character. There's your inventory items, nothing crazy here, with your money at the bottom. You also have a skills and quest area. This kind of shows you all of your progression in the game. There's only two major skills right now. That's combat and fishing. And in August, so that's 1 month from now, there's going to be wood cutting. So you'll see this, if you've played RuneScape, this kind of, they're leaning into that, but obviously they only have a couple skills versus RuneScape's about 27. They also have a quest list, and they're interesting enough, maybe not as good as RuneScape's, but still decent. They have a very basic combat tree, so you get new passive and active abilities as you level up. You have a very basic fishing guide of the fish that you can do. I will be honest, the fishing is pretty boring. I mean, pretty much the same as RuneScape, right? You sit there in AFK and you get fish. Remnants and trials kind of go into the lore of the game. Remnants are like bosses that are from like an ancient war of these gods that fought, and then trials are essentially those bosses but amped up in a more difficult way. You can do that in group fights. You have guilds in the game, but they're not really anything besides a glorified badge. You can't actually do anything with guilds right now in the game, which is fairly disappointing. You also have an Iron Man mode if you're familiar with old school RuneScape, but once again, it does essentially nothing. It literally puts a badge over your head and you can't trade with people, but you don't get anything for being Iron Man, which is kind of silly and pointless. I feel like they slapped on a couple things to say we have this thing right now, when they really should have waited for the thing to actually be a little bit more fleshed out. Now, I will be honest, the game has been fun. Like I said, more fun than you might think. The main story lasts until about level 50. There's 160 levels total, and then plus 4,000 levels that are just cosmetic, just to kind of show how long you've been playing the game. But functionally speaking, you only have 160 levels. At level 50, around, you're done with the main story. I'll be honest, the main story was very fun. The characters are funny, are interesting. I really had a good time. At a minimum, I would just stay free to play and go through the main storyline if you're just looking to have some fun. Now, let's talk about the cash shop. This game is free to play, so you might be a little concerned about microtransactions. Well, they're pretty generous with this, to be honest. You do have a place called a Heroes Guild, which I can show kind of over here, or it's called a Heroes Hall Tavern. When you first go to this area, this is the beginner area right here. You go here, it's going to present you with something that asks if you want to pay $20 or $30. $20 gives you a bunch of benefits for one character, $30 gets you all those benefits plus a little bit more for all of your characters. Now, if you play this game any more than probably 5 or 10 hours and you get serious about maxing your character, you're going to want to pay at least the $20 for that main character. The reason for this is the way that you navigate in the world. You see right now I'm just walking around, right? I'm just walking around. There, you say, well, there's no mount. This feels pretty slow. Well, the main way you're actually going to want to get around, the quickest way, is through teleportation. So if you click M, at least on keyboard, you can go to the map and you can look to teleport, right? You can just click a place and you have to use one teleport orb to go there. Well, how do you get these teleport orbs that you see in the top left? They drop from mobs, they drop from enemy kills. Well, if you are a free-to-play player, you haven't gotten the $20 or $30 package, the drop rate is pretty horrible, to be honest. It's atrocious. And so you're going to quickly run out of teleport orbs, and you're going to have to run all over the map anytime that you're doing a quest. And remember, the way that you level in this is pretty much just fetch quests. So you have to run all the way across the map to do the thing, to then just come back and do it over and over again. So unless you get that $20 or $30 package, you are going to be, it is going to drastically slow down how fast you're actually leveling your character. Now, beyond that, though, they're pretty good about not doing any kind of free-to-play stuff. We'll look at the Etterspire store here. You do have a secondary currency called crystals, just like most things, like Guild Wars 2 has gems, or everybody else has different things. They call these crystals. You pay, you know the gist, you pay real money, you get crystals, you use those crystals to then purchase items. I am not a fan of this system. You're abstracting money to other things to get you, anything that's abstracting your dollars from the actual purchase, I think is a gimmick, but we know that's pretty much what everyone's doing. You do have loot boxes, which again makes it worse because you're bringing probability into the system, and a lot of people aren't going to realize how much they're spending to guarantee any of these items. But the good thing here is that they are not giving you duplicates. And again, these are all cosmetics. Every single thing in this store is just for cosmetic purposes, except for one thing, which is the starter mounts. The mounts do make you go a little bit faster, but once you have teleport orbs, to be honest, you're going to realize that you don't really need those almost ever. The mount is kind of cool, but I ended up dropping it just because I like the way my character looks without the mount. And so I just teleport pretty much everywhere. Now, would I recommend playing this game? I would say it depends on the person. If you look at this graphic style and it's definitely not for you, well, probably not. I personally can't get into a game if I absolutely hate the graphical style of it. Okay, so I can understand that. But the type of person that would get into this is probably somebody who wants almost like a RuneScape light. Maybe you want to get into a game that's not fully fleshed out yet. You want to get into something that's sort of just getting started. And you say, you know what, I'm sick of all of these games are so far along, they have tons of content, I'm overwhelmed by that content, I just want to jump into a fun-looking game where I can go and I can grind. I can do some basic quests, talk to people in chat, and just have a simple MMO experience. There's actually a pretty wide range of people aged in the community. You'd think that most people in here are just children, that's what I thought at least, but really it's not. There's a lot of people I've seen that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and even maybe early 60s, and I think that's the reason. It's attractive to people to play a game that is simple, that doesn't have all of these confusing systems, and that they can just jump in, kill some things, level up, and have fun talking to people. And it's also fun to support a small indie team that's actually trying to make something just fun and just support that vision. So, am I going to keep playing the game? Yes, I am. I'm actually going to play it tonight, and I'm going to have fun grinding. Is the game complex, and there's all these amazing things to do, and the end game has the most fun bosses I've ever seen in my life? No, it doesn't. But it's fun enough, to be honest. It's fun enough to pass some time, and I've started to really like how shiny my armor actually is. So let me know in the comments if you think this game looks good or atrocious. Would you actually give it a chance, or is this just something you're not interested in?